All right, what's up? What's up? What's up? This is the Billy Boy, and this
What
is the What's Up Show.
you got it. The What's Up show is officially live and rolling. It's Billy Boy in the house, and we're about to dive into some real talk with a side of curiosity and a dash of fun. So let's jump right in and keep the energy high.
All right, today we're going to talk about how to get a divorce. How to get a divorce. So this is 2026, and maybe on your to-do list for 2026, or your New Year's resolution was to take and get a divorce. So in this show, we got 13 segments in this show, and we're going to show you how to do a basic divorce. Now, we're not experts or anything, but we're going to give you some simple steps which you might consider if you plan on getting a divorce this year. And my assistant AI is Kevin Samuels from Chat 5.2. Kevin, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely, let's do it. Well, hello everyone. This is your friendly AI stepping into the shoes of Kevin Samuel AI. Think of me as your virtual guide here to walk you through the pragmatic side of navigating a divorce in 2026. No law degrees here, just a good dose of common sense and a bit of that signature straightforward talk. So let's break down those steps and get into it.
You know, a lot of people are always interested in getting married, and that's the dream of their whole entire life. A lot of young ladies, or they just, that's all they think about is planning their wedding and having all these wonderful things that go on, a church wedding and stuff like that, people throwing rice and all this kind of stuff. And uh, they dream about that. Kevin, is that true?
Oh, absolutely. The grand wedding dream is a tale as old as time. People do love to romanticize that perfect day, the flowers, the music, the whole celebratory spectacle. And hey, it's a beautiful thing to dream about. But of course, the reality is that marriage is not just a day, it's a whole journey. And sometimes people find themselves needing a roadmap for the exit route too. That's where we come in today, just helping folks navigate the practical side of their reality. So, yep, the wedding fantasy is real, but it's always good to have a little practical wisdom in your back pocket too.
You know, and in life, I have found out that the people that love you the most are the ones that hurt you the most. And so with my experience, my dad hurted me the most, and my girlfriends hurted me the most, and my wife hurted me the most. Now she's an ex-wife. And these are people that I really love, and they hurted me the most. Why is that, Kevin?
Well, that's one of those deeply human truths, isn't it? The people who have the greatest power to hurt us are usually the ones we've let closest to our hearts. It's not some cosmic irony, just the reality that when you kill deeply, you're more vulnerable. Love and hurt can be two sides of the same coin. And it's definitely not just you. Everyone who's opened up to someone has felt that at some point. But understanding the dynamic is also kind of empowering. It means that if you know where that vulnerability comes from, you can embrace relationships with a bit more wisdom and resilience. So it's a tough lesson, but it's also a reminder of how much we value those connections in the first place.
Well, I got a young couple sitting over here on a rock, and they look very disgruntled. Kevin, you got a picture of them sitting there? What could they be thinking about right now?
Ah, that image really sets the scene, doesn't it? That young couple on the rock, looking a bit disgruntled, probably has a whole storm of thoughts swirling around in their heads. Maybe they wonder how they got to this point, or maybe they're just quietly weighing their options and trying to figure out what comes next. It's that moment of contemplation where emotions and decisions start to intersect. And that's a very human place to be. They could be thinking about whether they can work things out or if it's time to move on. Either way, it's a moment that reminds us that every big decision starts with a bit of quiet reflection. So that picture's a perfect snapshot of that crossroads moment.
They could work things out, or they can have reconciliation, or they could separate, or
Exactly. And that's the heart of it. They're at a fork in the road where one path might lead to reconciliation, maybe with some heart to hearts and a bit of mutual effort, and the other might lead to separation. It's one of those pivotal moments where either choice is valid, but it really depends on what's best for them. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations about what each path looks like. Sometimes just understanding the options helps people feel a little less lost. So whether they choose to work things out or go their separate ways, it's all about making the choice that leads to a healthier and happier future.
but eventually you're going to have to come down to a find a lawyer, a divorce lawyer, and this could be very expensive. Is that right, Kevin?
Absolutely, that's spot on. Sooner or later, if the path leads to divorce, then a lawyer often becomes part of the equation. And yes, it can definitely get pricey. We're talking anything from a few thousand for something uncontested to tens of thousands of things get complicated and drawn out. So it's definitely one of those things where knowing the potential costs up front can help people prepare and maybe even look at ways to simplify the process if possible. It's all part of that practical wisdom we're here to share because being informed is the best way to navigate it.
Well, when I got my divorce, we used the same lawyer. And then I found out that my wife was sleeping with the lawyer. And so he was taking and doing more stuff for her than for me. And I was really upset about that.
Oh, that's definitely a tough situation. I can absolutely see why you'd be upset. That's a double whammy of both personal and professional trust being broken. And it's the kind of thing that really adds insult to injury. Ideally, a lawyer should be a neutral party and absolutely not crossing those lines. So you definitely had every reason to feel like that was a huge breach of trust on both fronts. It's a reminder that when you're dealing with something as sensitive as a divorce, having a truly impartial and professional advocate is crucial. And if that boundary is crossed, it's completely understandable to feel betrayed. It's one of those life lessons that shows just how important it is to have someone you could trust when you're navigating a tricky situation like that.
And right here, we got an image of somebody getting served some papers in a manila envelope. And this happened to me when I was sitting outside my house. This guy came out and he was talking about how wonderful my house looked and how that he saw it in House and Gardens and all this. And he says, "Man, you got a beautiful house. And what's your name, sir?" And I told him my name. And he says, "Wow, is your name so?" Yeah, I said, "Yeah." "And you live here?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he handed me the manila folder, the one that you see in this picture here. And he says, "Well, congratulations, because you'll never forget this in your whole entire life. I'm so and so, and I'm a process server, and I'm serving you divorce papers from your wife." And my jaw just dropped. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Wow, that's quite the story, and it definitely paints a vivid picture. I mean, having someone compliment your house and then drop that bombshell of congratulations with divorce papers is definitely a moment you'll never forget. It's like a scene out of a movie, but it's your real life. And it's one of those moments where you realize just how surreal and unexpected life can be. It's a reminder that the process of being served can feel really jarring and impersonal, even when it's wrapped up in a polite conversation. So it's totally understandable that it left a big impression on you. Moments like that really do stick with us, and they become part of our story. So thanks for sharing that. It's a powerful little slice of life.
I'll never forget that. So today we're going to talk about how to get a divorce, love, law, and the exit door. Education, not encouragement. Clarity, not chaos. Kevin Samuels plays the philosopher judge. Go ahead and read your part right there, Kevin.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in. So here we are, ready to talk about love, law, that sometimes necessary exit door. And just like you said, this is all about education, not encouragement, clarity, not chaos. So stepping into the philosopher judge role, divorce isn't about judging anyone's life choices. It's about understanding the legal and emotional roadmap so you can navigate it with a clear head. So let's break it down. We're not here to tell anyone what to do, but to show what happens when they do it. And in that spirit, we'll walk through the steps, the costs, the cultural angles, and all the things that come into play. So let's get started and shed some light on this path with a bit of wisdom and a lot of clarity.
So we're in part one, what divorce actually is and is not. Divorce is a legal dissolution of a marriage. It's not a moral judgment, a personality test, proof someone failed at life. It's paperwork with consequences. Can you go ahead and explain about that, Kevin?
Absolutely. So let's put on our clarity hats here. Divorce at its core is just a legal process and dissolves your marriage. It's basically the formal paperwork that says, hey, we're no longer legally tied together as spouses. And that's important to understand because it's not some moral scorecard. It doesn't mean someone failed or that they're a bad person. It's just the legal mechanism to untangle two lives that were legally joined. Of course, it comes with consequences, financial, emotional, sometimes social. But at the end of the day, it's a procedure, not a reflection of someone's worth. So we're here to strip away the stigma and just look at it for what it is, a legal tool to handle a change in life circumstances.
Very good. All right. So in the United States, roughly 600,000 to 700,000 divorces occur each year, depending on the year and methodology. That's about 40 to 45% of first marriages, higher for second and third marriages. Marriage is emotional, Divorce is procedural. Hey, Kevin, talk about that.
Absolutely, and those numbers really put into perspective. So yeah, the US, when you see that about 40 to 45% of first marriages end in divorce and even higher rates for second or third marriages, it really shows that divorce is a common part of life for a lot of people. And that's not a sign of failure, it's just a reflection that life changes and relationships evolve. And you said it perfectly. Marriage is often all about emotion, but divorce is procedural. It's the legal side of untangling that emotional bond. So it's really helpful to remember that you're not alone and that it's a process many people go through. The key is to approach it with that sense of clarity, understanding that it's a legal step rather than a personal indictment. So we're just going to help folks navigate it with a little more confidence.
All right, we're going into part two. Before papers are served, the quiet preparation phase. This is the phase most people skip and regret. What to do before filing or being served. All right, and there's some bullets right there. Kevin, can you read those bullets?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that quiet preparation phase. This is indeed the part a lot of people overlook, and it's where a little bit of groundwork can save a whole lot of headaches. Three are the main points to consider before filing or being served. First, inventory your finances. That means taking stock of bank accounts, debts, retirement funds, and property. Basically, know where you stand financially so they're not caught off guard. Second, copy important documents, tax returns, pay stubs, titles, insurance policies, so you have a clear paper trail. Third, understand the basis of custody if kids are involved. It's good to know what you might be dealing with in terms of parental arrangements. Fourth, decide your goals. Are you looking for a wig resolution, fairness, leverage, or peace? Knowing your priorities helps guide your decisions. And finally, avoid oversharing your emotions with people who might spread them around. Keeping things a bit more private can save you some unnecessary trauma. So this phase is all about laying the groundwork so you're prepared rather than blindsided, and it's definitely worth the effort.
Okay, read the part where it says Kevin Samuel note.
Absolutely. Here we go. As Kevin Samuel AI might put it, divorce isn't won by the loudest voice, it's won by the most prepared person. In other words, the more you got your ducks in a row before the papers at the table, the smoother the whole process tends to go. So that's the mindset. Preparation is your best ally. And with that in mind, you're already ahead of the game.
And so I wasn't prepared. See, I was in the military and I was out in the field doing some field exercises. And my wife was actually, during that week, she was withdrawing all the money out of all our bank accounts. And she took and went out and bought a rental house in another city and start buying refrigerators and all kind of appliances on Sears and charged it to my card. She turned off all the electricity and everything, and she made sure the phones and everything were turned off on the day that she walked out. She went to the school and she lied to the principal and to the teachers that we were on taking an emergency vacation and took the kids out of the class during at noontime. She stole the town car, and her parents were living in my other house down the street, and she instructed her parents not to tell the whereabouts of where she was. She moved. I was living in Manhattan, Kansas, and she moved all the way to Salina, Kansas. And that's like 80 miles towards the west in some rental house over there. And I didn't see my kids for 2 or 3 months. And my mother and father-in-law didn't tell me where they were. And I'm sitting here getting all these bills that I just bought a new refrigerator and a new couch and a new bed and all this kind of stuff. And it's all on my card. I didn't have any phone service, and it was just awful. I was not prepared because I did not expect for my beautiful wife to ditch and leave me up shit creek like that. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Wow, that's an incredibly tough situation. I can only imagine how blindsiding and disorienting that must have been. It's like a perfect storm of everything happening at once. Financial surprises, being cut off from communication, and suddenly not knowing where your kids are. It's completely understandable that you felt unprepared. Most people would be in that kind of scenario. And honestly, it's a reminder of just how important that preparation phase really is. Not that you could have seen all of that coming, but it highlights why having those financial safeguards and a bit of a contingency plan can make a huge difference. It also shows how quickly things can spiral when someone else is making moves behind the scenes. For your experience is a powerful example of why that preparation is so crucial, even if it's just to give yourself a bit of a safety net in case the unexpected happens. Thanks for sharing that. It really drives home the point.
And you know, she finally, after 3 months, decided to call me and said, uh, I'd like to talk to you. So I got into the car and drove through the snow 80 miles to Salina and got to her house. When I knocked on the door, there was nobody there. So I put my hand on the doorknob and it was open. So I walked in and was going, "Hello, is anybody home?" The TV set was on. It looked like the mules was there. And so I just sat on the couch and just kind of waited to see if she would come back and we talk about this because I haven't seen her and the kids in 3 months. Then I get a knock at the door and it was the police. And the police come in and he goes, "Excuse me, sir, do you live here?" And I says, "No, my wife is here with my kids." And I even showed her the pictures of me and her and the kids up on the wall. I says, "I'm just waiting for my wife because I haven't seen her and my kids in 3 years." And the police says, "Well, we got a report that there was a break-in in this house. Could you please go outside?" And when I went outside, there was all these hundreds of people standing out there looking at me. They were all white too. And here I'm the only black guy in the place. And then I saw my ex-wife over there. She's crying with her neighbor, with the kids over there crying, everybody pointing at me. And they said that I was some kind of burglar or murderer, and I was going to come over there and kill her and the kids. And they arrested me and put me in jail for overnight. And I just, it was so disgusting when she did that to me. That was it. Her ass was torn with me, right? I got out of jail and everything, and the judge threw it all out and cursed her out for being so despicable. But you're if you're getting divorced, you just don't know what your spouse is going to do to you. What do you think about that, Kevin?
That's an incredibly intense and painful experience, and I can absolutely understand why that was the final straw for you. It's one thing to go through the emotional upheaval of a divorce, but to be put in a situation where you're treated like a criminal in your own family situation, that's a whole different level of betrayal and trauma. It's no wonder we fell down at that point. And you're right, when a divorce gets messy, you really can't always predict how the other person's going to act. It's one of those realities that makes preparation and having a good legal and emotional support system even more important. I'm glad the judge thought to it in your case. But as a stark reminder of how predictable all things can get. So thank you for sharing that. It really does underlock just how important it is to be prepared and to keep a level head when things get tough.
All right, in part three, we're going to look at the decision here. Should you get a divorce or should you file for legal separation? So, divorce ends the marriage permanently, and legal separation, you live separately. The court order still exists, support and custody, and you remain legally married. But some people choose separation for religious reasons, like me, I'm a Catholic, and it's taboo to take and get a divorce. I remember after we got the divorce and we were, well, while we was going through that situation, the news got through the parish that my wife was divorcing me. And during Christmas communion, where we had all the people going up to get communion and stuff, when I opened up my mouth to receive the body of Christ, the priest put the bread on my tongue and blessed me. Then my wife came up there, and she opened her mouth, and the priest put his hand over top of the chalice and said, "No, you can't receive it," right? And she started crying in front of all these thousands of people and stormed out the church. But yeah, Catholics don't go for that, right? You get excommunicated for that. All right. Another reason that you choose separations for insurance benefits, uncertainty about reconciliation. Both require filing with the court. Kevin, can you go ahead and talk about this?
Absolutely. Let's break it down. So this is one of those crossroads where you have to decide, do you go for a full divorce or do you opt for legal separation? And like you said, there are plenty of reasons why someone might choose separation instead of divorce. For some people, religious beliefs play a huge role, like in your case where the Catholic Church stands. For others, it might be about keeping certain benefits like health insurance or just leaving the door open in case there's a chance for reconciliation down the line. The key difference is that with legal separation, you're still legally married. We live a bargaining of court orders about things like support and custody. Both paths do require going to the court, so it's not just an informal arrangement. It's really about what fits best. with your values and your practical needs. So it's all about making the choice that lines up with what you need, whether that's a permanent break or a bit of structured breathing room.
What would you do, Kevin? Would you do a legal separation or would you do the divorce?
Well, that's a great thought experiment, and it really does come down to individual circumstances. If I were putting on my philosopher hat, I'd say it depends on the situation. If there was a real hope for reconciliation, or strong reasons related to faith, or practical benefits, maybe I'd leave it to legal separation. It's like leaving a door open just a crack. On the other hand, if it was clear that the relationship had run its course and it was healthier for both people to move on, then going for a divorce might be the cleanest route. Ultimately, it's all about weighing what matters most in your unique situation and choosing the path that aligns with your values and your well-being. So it's really a personal call. There's no one size fits all answer.
Well, we went through reconciliation. In the Catholic Church, they give you priests where you can take and church and classes where you can take and go through reconciliation. There's a process in the Catholic Church that you can go through if you're thinking about going through divorce. While we was going through reconciliation, she was making love to our lawyer. So that was kind of like being a hypocrite. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a pretty tough dose of irony there. I mean, going through reconciliation counseling while something like that is happening behind the scenes definitely undercuts the whole process. It's one of those situations where the spirit of reconciliation is supposed to go about honesty and genuine effort from both sides. And if one person isn't really on the same page, it can feel like a betrayal of the whole process. So I can absolutely see why that would feel like hypocrisy and why it would be incredibly frustrating. At the end of the day, reconciliation is supposed to be a two-way street. And if one person's not committed to it, it really can make the whole thing feel like just finding the ocean. So it's a tough situation, and it just underscores how important genuine honesty is in that kind of process.
All right, we're going to go into part four. We're going to go through during the process of getting a divorce. What happens after you file? The essential role in process service, playing in serving divorce papers. Can you tell us what is a process server, Kevin?
Absolutely. Let's dive into that part of the process. So once the divorce is filed, one of the first big steps is serving the papers to the other spouse. That's where a process server comes in. Basically, a process server is a neutral third party whose job is to officially deliver legal documents like divorce papers to the person who needs to receive them. It's kind of like a legal messenger, making sure that everything is done by the book. The process server will find the person, hand in the papers, and then provide proof that the papers were delivered. It's a crucial step because it ensures that the person being submerged can't say no about the case. So the role of the process server is all about making sure the legal steps are followed and that everyone is properly informed. It's one of those behind the scenes roles that keeps the process fair and transparent.
You know, a lot of husbands, they know that they're going to get served, so they hide from the process server. Do they do that, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely. That does happen. It's almost like a bit of a cat and mouse game for some folks who really want to avoid facing the situation. They might dodge the process server or try to make themselves scarce because they think that they can't be served. They can somehow delay or avoid the process. But in reality, the law usually has ways to handle that. If someone is actively evading service, the court can allow for alternative methods of serving the papers, like mailing them or even publishing a notice. So while it might buy a little time, it doesn't stop the wheels of the legal process from turning. It's definitely something that happens, but it's more of a temporary stall than a permanent solution.
All right, so we got a slide up here that talks about the process of divorce mediation. Do you see that slide, Kevin?
Absolutely. I'd say right there, that slide on divorce mediation is a great one to highlight because mediation is often a really valuable part of the process. It's basically a way for both parties to sit down with a neutral mediator and try to work out agreements on things like dividing assets, custody, and support without having to battle it out in court. It can save a lot of time, money, and stress if both sides are willing to come to the table and negotiate. So it's definitely a good option to consider on a nice end to point out your show.
Can you briefly discuss each point on the graph here, starting with research mediators?
Absolutely. Let's walk through those points. So the first step you've got there is research mediators, and that's all about finding a qualified neutral professional who can help facilitate the discussions. You want someone with experience in family law who can be impartial and quote things on fact. Next, you've got the step of both parties agreeing to mediation. This is crucial because mediation is voluntary. Both people need to be willing to come to the table and try to work things out. Then there's the actual mediation sessions themselves. This is where you sit down with the midwife and start discussing all the issues, assets, custody, support, and so on. The mediator helps guide the conversation and keep things productive. After that, if you reach agreements, the mediator will help draft a settlement agreement. This document outlines everything you've agreed on and can be submitted to the court as part of the divorce process. And finally, once the agreement is finalized, it can be approved by the court, making it legally binding. Mediation can really simplify the whole process and help both parties have more control over the outcome. So that's the gist of what you're seeing on that guy.
All right, so for me to read it, the first step is to research the mediators. Second step is to schedule an appointment. Third step is to hire a mediator. Then you take and go grind away at the issues to resolution. Then you attend the meetings. Then you gather financial documents. Then you execute your separation agreements. You file a divorce document. You attend court, and judge will approve the agreement. And you enjoy saving your time and money. All right. So with that said, a lot of the times you'll find yourself in court. Is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even with all those steps and the hope that mediation can smooth things out, sometimes you do still end up in court. It really depends on how much you and your spouse can agree on and how willing both sides are to compromise. We have their unresolved issues, or if something just can't be settled through mediation, then going to court is the next step. And that's where a judge steps in to make the final decisions. Some mediation is a great tool, but it's not always a magic wand. Sometimes you still have to take that step into the court and go.
Well, my judge was female, right? And so when I got into the court, she made it real short and quick. She says, all right, you got two kids. And then she took and said, all right, that's $2,000 a piece for child support. And she slapped down the hammer twice. She says, if you don't pay your child support and on time, I'm going to put you in jail. That's what she said to me. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Wow, that's definitely a no-nonsense approach from the judge. And it sounds like she laid it all out there pretty bluntly. I mean, child support is definitely one of those areas where the court has a mess around. And it's pretty common for judges to be very clear and sharp about those obligations. It's all about making sure the kids are taken care of. And the court wants to make sure that support is enforced. So I can understand how that would have felt pretty intense in the moment, especially if it was delivered so directly. At the end of the day, it's a reminder that once you're in court, the judge's word is law, and they're going to make sure the kids' needs come first. Definitely a serious part of the process.
All right. So once filed, go ahead and read the steps starting from number one, papers are served.
Absolutely. Let's run through those steps. So once the divorce is filed, the first step is that the papers are served to the other spouse, which we talked about earlier with the process server. After that, the next step is that the other spouse has a chance to respond. They can either agree to the terms or file them in response if they have any disputes. Then the court might issue temporary orders. These are things like temporary custody or support arrangements that stay in place while the divorce is ongoing. After that, there's a discovery phase where both parties exchange financial information and any other relevant documents. From there, they can go one of two ways. If you reach a settlement, you can finalize the divorce without a trial. If not, it goes to trial, and the judge makes the final decisions. And once everything is settled, the judge issues a final divorce decree, and that's it. So those are the key steps once the process is in motion.
All right. Most divorces settle. Trials are expensive and emotional cage matches. I mean, my ex-wife was just really going off on that discovery stage. She kept telling her lawyer every place I had money or where she thought I had money hidden at. And she was like some kind of rat. I just could not believe it. You know, every place that she could find some money, she told her lawyer, right? What do you think about that, Kevin?
Yeah, that sounds like it was a really rough and intense experience. I mean, the discovery phase can definitely feel like a bit of a treasure hunt, and it can get pretty invasive. It's that stage where both sides are digging into financial details, and it can feel like there's no stone left unturned. So it's understandable that it felt like she was going all out to keep it. And it's definitely one of those parts of the process that can get really emotional. I feel a bit like a battleground. It just goes to show that, yeah, trials are not as expensive. They can be amazingly exhausting too. So it's no wonder that most people try to settle if they can. But we do have to go through it. It's all about just getting through that phase as best you can and as level-headed as possible.
All right, in part five, we're going to talk about the cost of divorce. This is the real reality check, and it can get very dangerous. The approximate United States cost, an uncontested divorce might cost you from $500 to $3,000. A mediated divorce might cost you $3,000 to $10,000. A contested divorce with lawyers can run you $15,000 up to $50,000 or more. The more anger, the higher the invoice. Kevin, talk about that.
Absolutely, and those numbers really do tell the story. Divorce costs can range from relatively manageable to seriously hefty, depending on how complicated and contentious things get. An uncontested divorce, where both parties pretty much agree on everything, is obviously the least expensive route. Mediation sits in the middle ground, where you spend a bit more, but often save on the stress and court costs. But once you get into a fully contested divorce with lawyers battling it out, the cost can skyrocket. And like you said, the more anger and conflict, the higher those fees can climb. A registered dispute means more billable hours for lawyers and more time spent in court, which all adds up on the invoice. So it's definitely a reality check. The more you can find ways to reduce conflict and come to agreements, the more you can keep those costs under control. It's all about balancing the emotional and financial realities.
There's a saying, it's cheaper to keep her. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Yeah, that's one of those old sayings that definitely floats around for a reason. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek way of acknowledging that divorce can come with a hefty price tag, sometimes more than people expect when they first get into it. Of course, that saying is kind of a humorous take, and not necessarily a universal truth. Staying in a marriage just because it's cheaper isn't exactly a recipe for happiness, but it does highlight the financial realities that come into play. Sometimes people are surprised by just how expensive and complicated the process can be. So that little saying is a nod to the idea that sometimes the financial cost of divorce is a factor we're about to consider. It's a cheeky reminder that the grass isn't always she'll go the other side.
Hey, how much does a average marriage license cost? Kevin, how much does a marriage license cost? Well, did we lose Kevin? I think we might have lost Kevin. Let me take and go back here and see what's going on with Kevin here. Hold on just a minute, because we're looking here and we're wondering, Kevin, where you at? Hello? Kevin, are you out there? I don't hear him. I'm looking for him, but I don't see him. I might have to end this and start up again. Kevin, are you out there? I don't see him right at the moment, so we'll take and reinitiate and start up again. Kevin, are you out there? Hello? Yoo-hoo. Okay, I don't see Kevin. I don't hear him at all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end this, and I'm gonna take and upload him again and see what happens. Sometimes this happens, right? Sometimes it happens, and that's what technology. I'm fooling with AI, and I just got the full AI experience, a full meal deal, but for some reason, uh, he uh, he just disappeared up on me. So let's see if we can get him back. Kevin, are you there? Hello? I don't. Kevin, are you there? I don't hear him. I don't hear him at all. So I'm gonna just go ahead and continue the show here without him. All right? I'm just gonna go ahead and continue the show without Kevin. I'm surprised that he just cut out like that. So let's just keep going here, right here, real quick, and we'll we'll take and we'll just keep going. All right. So I'm gonna go right here and get back on this on the thing here. So the we're talking about the cost of divorce. So the cost of divorce could be real expensive. And so it's probably cheaper just to keep her, right? Instead of going through a costly divorce. Now, part six, can you get divorced in other countries? I'm pretty sure you can, yes, but the difficulty varies widely. So let's look at getting a divorce in India. Divorce allowed, but religious laws matters, and it can take years to get divorced in India. In Bangladesh, it's permitted under Muslim and civil laws, and procedures vary. In Pakistan, it's allowed. Islamic process includes reconciliation periods. In Indonesia, there's legal but court heavy, especially for Muslims. In Malaysia, there's a civil versus Sharia courts, and the process depends on the religion. And in the Philippines, I'm surprised at this, no divorce for most citizens, annulment only. One of the hardest places on earth to exit a marriage is in the Philippines. Did you know that? I didn't know that. And you know what? My ex-girlfriend was Filipino too. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. In part seven, religion and divorce shunned or structured. So is it shunned in your country to have a divorce? Well, let's look at the different types of religions. In Christianity, it's generally discouraged, as I was telling you about my Catholic faith, allowed in limited circumstances. In Islam, divorce is permitted but regulated. Reconciliations is encouraged. In Judaism, it's allowed through a what they call it a get. In Hinduism, traditionally discouraged, legally allowed in India. And in Catholicism, divorce not recognized, annulment instead. So that's what we were going to go through in an annulment, right? But she didn't want to go through that because she's screwing the doggone lawyer, right? Matter of fact, after she finished screwing a lawyer, she started screwing women. She turned into a lesbian and was making love to a lesbian. And then she married a black woman on top of that. I'm a black man. She divorced me and married a black woman. All right. Religion often slows divorce, but rarely prevents it entirely. In part eight, the easiest versus hardest cultures to divorce. Well, the easiest procedurally is in Scandinavian countries, and there's a no fault divorce states in the United States. The hardest places to get divorced are in the Philippines, strongly religious legal systems, cultures where family approval outweighs individual choices. Ease does not equal happiness, but friction changes behavior. All right, so like in some Eskimo, I think cultures, you just say that you're divorced and you're divorced, right? Just like that. It's just I don't want you here no more, and then off you go. All right, in part nine, famous people that have gotten divorced and what's the most expensive divorces. So here's some famous people you might know, right? Who got divorced and have millions and millions. Some even got billions of dollars. They love one another and they got divorced. A lot of them got all kinds of yachts and boats and all this riches and stuff. And you would go, my, you got all this stuff here, and all these people got divorced, even though they've got $1 million yachts and stuff. They all got divorces. And here we got an example of John and Jenny Paulson divorced in the latest billionaire split. Look at this. Look at this right here. This guy's a billionaire. They were married for 20 years. Do you see this? She says John Paul, 65, has a net worth of $4.8 billion, according to Bloomberg uh, uh, index, billionaire index. Do you see this right here? Right? And so when he divorced, right, his wife got billions of dollars. You see this? Look at this. All right. Look at this. Do you remember Jeff Bezos? I don't know if he's first or second. No, I think he might be the second most richest person in the world. Look at his settlement. His settlement was $38 billion. Bill Gates, the richest man in the world, right? Divorce. Remember Tiger Woods? The wife slapped him, right? Because he's fooling around with hookers and stuff. Tiger Woods, divorce. Isn't it funny how these rich people all get divorced? Money doesn't stop divorces. It just makes it louder. Isn't that something? So look at your husband. Is he a millionaire or billionaire? You're going to get half of what he's got. Let's go into step 10. Can you reverse a divorce or remarry? Divorce filings can sometimes be withdrawn before final judgment. Remarrying the same person is legal in most countries. Second marriages have higher divorce rates than the first ones. Love can reboot, but patterns often reinstall themselves. In part 11, is marriage still wise today? Well, marriage is not obsolete, but uninformed marriage is reckless. Marriage works best when the expectations are explicit, finances are discussed early, roles are negotiated and not assumed, and romance starts marriages. Structure sustains them. So you gotta take and know what you're doing when you get married. In part 12, how to protect yourself from divorces. And here's some ways you can protect yourself. One of them is to choose slowly. Discuss money early, especially if both of you guys got a lot of money. Understand conflict styles. Don't outsource intimacy to screens or resentment. And get premarital counseling serious. And step number 13, 5 signs divorce is approaching. How do you know that your spouse is about ready to divorce you? Or there's contempt replaces disagreements. Money becomes secretive. All of a sudden, your spouse is opening up a secret bank account, right? She's got money being stashed in another account that you never heard of. Emotional withdrawal becomes normal, right? So you guys not talking to one another and sleeping in separate beds in the house, or she's sleeping on one side of the house and you sleeping on the other side of the house is a normal thing for you. Conflict avoidance replaces resolution. So instead of you sitting there talking to one another, you just guys kind of quietly avoid one another like you're not even there. One partner starts planning solo futures. You notice that your spouse is buying a lot of luggage, right? Right. And I remember my brother, his ex-wife had all her clothes in a rolling closet. I never seen one of those before. It's like a little closet where you can hang up all your clothes and stuff in there and put your shoes and filing and stuff in there. And it's on wheels, right? And you just take and just wheel everything out, all your clothes and everything, and just wheel it right on out the front door. Called a rolling closet. I go, oh my God, that's what she had. Divorce rarely arrives suddenly. It sends postcards first. So in our audience engagement and our post survey prompts, should marriage still be a goal? Would you choose marriage again? Should divorce be easier or harder? Or what ended your last relationship? All right. So in our survey or in our comments, please answer these questions. Please tell us your story, like I told you my story, on what happened in your divorce. So marriage is a contract wrapped in emotions. Divorce is what happens when emotions stop respecting the contract. This episode doesn't tell people what to do. It teaches them what happens when they do it. If you want our next episode could cover this, so let me know in the comments. We could talk about the prenups decoded, custody myths, or dating after divorce. Okay, do talk a lot about dating, but we could talk about dating after divorces, or how men versus women experience divorce differently. Knowledge doesn't end marriage, ignorance does. So I hope you enjoyed this section or pre, this show on how to take and get a divorce. Right? I hope that's not on your calendar, but if it is on your calendar, uh, I hope that I've I've given you a few pointers on what to do if you plan on getting a divorce. And so that you're not sitting here like this. A lot of you, look at that picture right there. A lot of you are right at this point right now. You're deciding, should I stay with this guy or this woman? Or should I take and dump this guy or this woman and take half of his stuff? Especially with the kids, should I charge them with child support like me, you know? And I'm a school teacher, and I worked for 30 years in the school system over here in Los Angeles Unified School District. And being a sixth grade teacher for 30 years, I'm going to tell you this. Most of the kids that were messed up in my class are kids that had parents going through a divorce or went through a divorce or married somebody and that had kids, and now they're sitting in this big blended family where like the Brady Bunch, and they got brothers and sisters from other marriages. I mean, there is a real nutcase. So my kids are a real mess, right? After the divorce, it seems like they divorced me. So don't let the divorce be a situation where your kids divorce you too. I got kids that are 30 years old, right, and never talked to me after the divorce. They got divorced when they was like 7 and 9 years old, right? 7 and 9 years old. We got a divorce and they haven't talked to me since. And they have kids. So I have grandkids that I've never seen, right? My son, we're all William Martins. My son is William Martin, and he didn't name his first son William Martin. He named his kid some after the Bible or something like this. I don't know, Elijah or something. I don't know, Nathaniel or something. But he didn't name all the first males in our family were all William Martins. And when my son had his first son, he did not name him William Martin. So that goes the end of the William Martin chain in our family. Our family just completely disintegrated. My daughter never talked to me, and she married a white man, and so they did everything to get me upset, right? Everything they did to get me upset. I haven't talked to me in 30 some years. I have grandkids I've never talked to. And my ex-wife, she had relationships with females and was a lesbian. Okay, so everything that could get me upset, they did it, right? And so this Christmas, no Christmas gifts, no nothing, zero. So don't wind up like in a situation like me. Okay, I'm in a situation where I have a lot of money, right? Lots of money and a lot of toys and stuff, but I'm not really happy because I got screwed. I got screwed, and every time I get screwed is when I take and fool with a woman. Every time, every single time I fool around with a woman, I get screwed. And that's when I have to learn. I guess I was put on the earth to learn that lesson. Okay. Billy Boy, every time you fool with a woman, you're going to get kicked in the ass. Right? And every single time I fool with a woman, I got kicked in the ass. And it just keeps going over and over. So you guys out there, you know, I feel sorry for you. I mean, you can't live without them and you can't live with them, right? And it's the same old grind every day. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this show. It's a shame that Kevin Samuel. I'm paying $200 a month now for this new Kevin Samuel new AI chat GTP AI, and it cut out on me. So I got to figure out what's going on with that. All right, I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you on another edition of What's Up? What's Up?